Let's start with the blessing that we make before we learn Torah, because the answer to your question is going to be related to the study of Torah.
Could you be a little
Baruch,
louder, than Rabbi, please?
louder.
Anyway,
Let me see. Let me see how much louder I can go.
I want
Baruch
to thank you. So,
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah. And maybe we should get like a fancy setup with like a mic and a camera that'll do well for Zoom.
yeah, because there's like so much outside noise here that, and my phone doesn't go too loud at all. Anyway. Yeah.
Okay, so the short answer is that the Mishnah is the first
Can't you play this too?
um, the first compilation of notes from the oral tradition. So the first time anything from the oral tradition was written down was written kind of in cliff note form in the Mishnah. The Talmud is discussing the Mishnah.
Okay. Can't you hear in yours? Jenny, I'm not. What buzzes? I'm not going. You are. I am not. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh. He's not on this. She called him. I didn't. I gotcha.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, all right. I just wanted to know exactly what it was all about.
Mm-hmm. Sure. It's a very, very important part of Judaism, of the Jewish literature, and the Jewish history. Yeah, that's the short of it. Okay. So
Rabbi,
there
how's
is
the
a custom.
family?
Sorry.
Okay, how's the family first?
How is the family? Thank God the family is well.
Thank God. How's everybody
Had a
relating
beautiful
to the
time.
new little one?
Sorry?
How's everybody? How's the other ones relating to the new little one?
Oh my goodness, you have to see them. They're like, as soon as they come home from school, their first question is, "Where's Bebe?"
How did you train them, teach them to be so loving?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's anything that we necessarily trained them to do. They're just such sweethearts.
Yes, they are. But so often children are jealous of each other, and yours just seem to be
Loving.
Oh, you only see them when they're on show.
When they're what?
I said you only see them when they're on show. When they're on set. Behind closed doors, however, yeah, I know. Thank God they have their fair share of jealousy, and we try to help them deal with their disappointments and frustrations, and we shall see what happens. But they're such great helpers, and yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. In fact, this Pesach they were like the first holiday that they were very hands on helping in the kitchen, and yeah, l'chaim.
Sorry, I took you off track, but I just,
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, maybe we'll see you Lag BaOmer. Maybe we'll see you Shavuot. Maybe we'll see you by my mom's yard site. We got a few things coming up.
I just can't sit long. I can't sit in it. And it's my back is better, but it's still to sit in a certain kind of chair is no good. I'm much better, and there's something where I can recline the back, Otherwise, I'm in pain. I've lost 6 inches in height.
What?
That's
a lot.
It's a whole lot from the compression fractures. I'm now a little old lady, not just an old lady, but a little old lady.
Oy vey.
Uh-huh.
Oy vey.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take our minds off of our
Yes.
tribulations and delve into the sea of the Torah. There is a custom
Okay.
from Passover until Shavuot. We have 6 weeks, and so it's a great time for character development. And so we studied the ethics of our fathers on Shabbat afternoons. Every week we take another chapter because there are 6 weeks, 6 chapters. Ethics of Our Fathers is a book of the Mishnah which teaches more than things that are beyond the letter of the law. So things that are beyond your regular, how to keep Shabbat, how to keep the holidays, how to keep kosher, but more of the moral and ethical teachings that were passed along. And so this week is chapter 2, and we're gonna read. We started a little late, so we're gonna go a little faster. But let's read the first Mishnah from chapter 2, the straight path. Joan, do you have that in front of you? Would you like to read the Mishnah?
That starts with Rabbi Yehuda.
Yeah.
Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Hanashi would say, which is the right path for a person to choose for themselves? Whatever is the harmonious for the one who does it and earns them praise for mankind. Be as careful with a minor mitzvah as with a major one, for you do not know the rewards of the mitzvah. Consider the cost of a mitzvah against its rewards, and the rewards of a transgression against its cost. Contemplate 3 things, and you will not come to transgression. Know what is above from you, a seeing eye, a listening ear, and all your deeds being inscribed in a book.
Okay. So we have 3 general things, thank you, Joan, that are spoken about in this Mishnah. Number 1 is which path should you choose? Number 2, don't judge which mitzvah is considered a big mitzvah and which one is a small mitzvah, because you don't know what God considers as a big one and what God considers as a small mitzvah. As well as whenever you're looking at a mitzvah and you're not sure if you should go ahead and do it or not, think about what you choose, what you stand to gain by doing the mitzvah and what you stand to lose by not doing the mitzvah. And the same thing is with a transgression. Think and weigh the pros and cons. What are you going to gain from transgressing, and what will you lose by transgressing? And the third thing is a very famous teaching. You should, if you think about these 3 things, you will never sin. You should know what is above you, a seeing eye, a listening ear, and all your deeds are inscribed in a book. Today, it's a lot easier to understand this, or at least have some kind of a analogy for this, because in the olden days, they had to just believe in God. Today, we don't have to just believe that everything we do and say is being listened to and inscribed and seen. We have video cameras everywhere, and there's nothing you can do without being scrutinized. So the question here, sorry?
But that's not God doing that. But,
that's not God, but it's a lot easier for us to recognize that, we don't have to go so far as to rely on God, even if we just, walk around. We know that if we steal something, it's not just God who's watching, it's the video cameras too. As they say, when I was younger, my mom would give me $1 and I would go and I would come back with, 3 pounds of onions, 2 bunches of bananas, and a few loaves of bread. You can't do that anymore. There's video cameras everywhere. So what we're going to focus on today is the first part of that Mishnah. What is the right path that you should choose for yourselves? Something that is harmonious for the one that does it and also earns them praise from mankind. The Bartanura, who is one of the great commentaries on the Mishnah, said, whatever is harmonious for the one who does it and earns them praise from mankind. It should be pleasant for the one doing it and pleasant for others. The rule is, harmony is when one takes the middle road of each quality without veering to either extreme. So what does it mean, the middle path? The middle path means not too far to the right, not too far to the left on anything. For example,
not an extremist. Good.
Sorry?
Not an extremist. That's good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And not being an extremist in anything.
In anything. For example, a miserly person may enjoy the money that they are saving, but others around them do not appreciate their behavior. So that might be good for them, but it's not good for the people around them. You know what they say about misers? They say misers make great ancestors.
Uh-huh.
An irresponsibly generous person, on the other hand, will gladden the recipients of his funds, but his conduct will not be harmonious for himself because he will lose all of his money. Responsible giving is harmonious for both the giver and the recipient. The recipient is happy with the funds they receive, and the giver gives according to his means while saving enough for himself. This rule applies to all qualities, right? If you never get angry, then you won't be able to educate your kids. If you are always getting angry, well, then nobody will want to be with you or anywhere near you. So you have to figure out a balance where you can get angry about things that is worthy of getting angry or upset about. Doesn't never lose your temper. We'll read his explanations on the rest of the Mishnah as well. For you do not know the rewards of the mitzvahs. The Torah did not specify a reward for fulfilling a positive mitzvah nor a consequence for neglecting it. And the cost of a mitzvah against its rewards, evaluate the losses and expenditures incurred by fulfillment of a mitzvah against the rewards it will bring in this world and the next world, reward far greater than the cost. The reward of a transgression, evaluate the pleasure gained from the transgression against the loss that it will bring. Okay, so the Rebbe now is going to ask some questions on this Mishnah, as we will see on page number 2 in the middle. Question number 1. What kind of question is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi asking? What is the right path for you to choose? What do you mean, what's the right path for you to choose? Well, if you open up a code of Jewish law, you will see exactly what is the right path, what is the way for a Jew to live. A Jew wants to know, how should I live my life? It's very simple. You open up a code of Jewish law, and you will find how you're supposed to live your life from the morning till the night. From when you wake up, from before you wake up until after you go to sleep. So what exactly is being brought over here, and why is this something that is a deep and ethical, moral teaching? This is something that's very simple. We don't need this in specifically in this tractate. Question number 2. Moreover, the Mishnah states that the proper path is one that brings us praise from our fellow people. Does that mean that we should decide what the right thing is to do just based on public opinion? Is this the path of piety, to make decisions based on what other people will say? So, it actually says in the Talmud that when it comes time toward when it's going to be the end of exile, towards the final years of exile, as we prepare for Mashiach's coming, it says that the face of the generation will be that of the face of a dog.
A dog?
The face of the generation will be like the face of a dog. So one of the explanations given to that is a beautiful explanation. When you ever seen someone walking a dog, you'll see that the dog is in front of the person, and it looks like the dog is leading the person. However, if you look a little longer, you'll see that the dog is constantly looking back to see, is the owner happy with them? Are they going in the right direction? What's going on? Same thing is, it looks like our government, our leaders are leading the people, but they're constantly looking back to see that the people like what I'm doing, instead of going based on their own path of what is right and what is wrong. So what's going on over here? Page number 3. The Rebbe is going to explain here. The question, which is the right path for a person to choose for themselves, certainly cannot be referring to the choice of whether to observe the Torah or not. The Torah already commands us to choose life, which is the path of the Torah. Rather, the question is, which is the proper approach to choose from in the different approaches to Torah observance? There is the right path and there is the crooked path. The Mishnah asks, what is considered the right path when it comes to our observance of the Torah and the mitzvahs? There are 2 general approaches a person can take in divine service. A, working on oneself. We should sit and study Torah ourselves and not concern ourselves with others. Of course, a certain level of mundane work and interaction with others is required. As the Mishnah teaches, a person who says, I have only Torah, has no Torah either. but this person's main occupation is Torah. This approach is termed harmonious for the one who does it, and such a person is a master of the Torah. There is another way of approaching your Torah learning and mitzvah observance, which is working with others. According to Jewish law, a person must have dedicated times for Torah study, but this person's main focus is on acts of charity and kindness for others. This approach earns praise from mankind, as such a person is considered not a master of Torah, but a master of good deeds. Page number 4. Both of these approaches are legitimate. The verse states, keep the path of God to perform righteousness and justice, indicating that both righteousness, which is a reference to charity, and justice, which is a reference to Torah study, are divine paths. And we find examples of these two paths among the Tanoim, the scholars of the time of the Mishnah. This is around the end of the time of the Second Temple. Ben Azai was devoted to Torah. As he said, my soul yearns for Torah. And he was supported financially by others. In fact, Ben Azai did not even get married, or he was married for only a short time, because he did not want to be distracted by family life, and he just sat in the study hall and learned Torah day and night. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai also was devoted solely to Torah study. We're going to skip source number 1 over here, and we're going to move on page number 5. There are also examples of the other path. The Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, notes that there are only a few legal teachings cited in the name of Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, but there are many stories related about him. He explains that this is because Rabbi Hanina's focus was on good deeds. Another example is Rabbi Chia, about whom the Talmud says how great are Chia's actions, emphasizing his actions, and that he went ahead and did action to make sure that the Jewish people would survive. I don't know if we have enough time to get into the story of what he did, but it was very interesting. You can read in source number 2 and source number 3 and source number 4. You can read that later. Some of the stories about Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa's piety, and his care and concern for others. We're going to move now to page number 6, where the Rebbe says the spies' choice. And the Rebbe over here is going to go and say that this question is not a question that was a new question in the time of the Second Temple. This question goes all the way back to the time of the spies, when the Jewish people were in the desert, a fresh nation. The spies went into Israel and said, we won't be able to get into the land of Israel, which is what ended up causing the Jewish people to say, oh no, God can't get us into Israel. And because they complained, God says, you know what? You guys will all die here in the desert. Your children who you're worried about, they're the ones who are going to go into the land. And that is why the Jewish people had to spend 40 years wandering around the desert. What was going on over there was that the spies said, out here in the desert, we're sitting here, we're learning Torah. We're involved in godly pursuits. Once we get into the land, we're going to be distracted from our Torah study. We're going to have to plant a field. We're going to have to find laborers. We're going to have to give charity. We're going to have to be involved in the world. And they didn't want that distraction from their Torah study. So, page number 7, the perfect path. The question is, which is the right path?
Wait.
Sorry?
Hold on. Oh, there it is. Perfect path. Okay. Got it.
Okay, the question is, which is the right path for a person to choose for themselves? Which of the two paths is preferable? Personal service, Torah study and prayer, or interpersonal service, which is kindness to others?
Kindness.
Rabbi Yehuda teaches us that the proper path is whatever is harmonious for the one who does it, personal service, and earns them praise for mankind, interpersonal service. In other words, we must adopt both approaches fully, without one coming at the expense of the other. We have to work both on our Torah study as well as encouraging others and helping others. The Rebbe was the perfect example of this. He split his time. On the one hand, he was a Torah scholar bar none. They're one of the greatest minds. And not only did he have a great mind, He used his great mind to study Torah and to come to its explanations. At the same time, I don't think there is any Jewish person, let alone leader of the Jewish people, who spent so much time helping others and instructing and guiding and with his care and concern for many, many hundreds of thousands of people. And the Rebbe instructed that not only of himself, he expected that of all of us, to spend our time doing what we need to do and to share our time helping others. Page number 7, a story from Rabbi Steinsaltz. Rabbi Adin Evan Yisrael relates, the most remarkable thing about the Rebbe, and this is something you could see in everything he did, you could hear this in snippets of his discussions with people. In virtually every sentence he spoke or wrote was his enormous drive to always supersede oneself, to always do more. I experienced this myself in my relationship with the Rebbe. I know that one shouldn't speak of oneself, but what can I do? This is a subject I know a little bit about. More than 12 years ago, I wrote a letter to the Rebbe. I tried to describe what I was doing. I tried to explain that one project that I'm involved in is enough work to occupy me all day, every day. There was also a second project, which was also enough work to fill my entire day. And then there was a third undertaking, which was a full day's work. I told the Rebbe that I find it hard to carry on with them all, and that every day is more difficult than the day before because there's just so much. What should my priorities be? Which one should I cut out? That is the letter I wrote. So he responded, and this is practically the last letter I received from the Rebbe. The Rebbe's answer was, continue all these things that you are doing and add more to all of them. Rebbe, I just told you I have 3 things and each one takes my whole day. What should I do? The Rebbe said, you could do all 3 and add more. He demanded these things. How can I explain? You know the famous story about the farmer who comes to the rabbi complaining about his small house so full of children, it's unbearable. So the rabbi tells him to take a goat in his house, a noisy, smelly, dirty goat. Very soon the farmer comes back to the rabbi. Oh, my problems are worse, he cries out. The rabbi tells him to take out the goat. So he takes the goat out of his house and soon is back to tell the rabbi what a wonderfully big house he has now. A very old story, but what the Rebbe did was similar and yet quite different. When people complained about how hard their work was, he would give them more to do. When they complained how terrible that was, he would give them even more. He told them to add the goat. He'd even give them camels to put in their house, figuratively, right? That was the way he worked all the time. Whenever anyone complained about their inability to cope or the hard times they endured, he would suggest to take on something more. Obviously, this is against the laws of nature. You have a certain amount of space. You are confined by the limits of the human condition. What did the Rebbe do? How could he overburden people like this? I will give an answer from the realm of physics. Once, when I was a nice, honest young man, I was interested in that field. There is something in physics. You have a certain amount of pressure on something, and then there is a point at which it can take no more. When you put 10 times, 100 times that pressure on it, something happens. The molecules collapse, and the very nature of the object changes. In astronomy, you have what is called white dwarfs. These are small stars, the size of the Earth, sometimes even smaller. The mass they contain is many times that of the sun. Each cubic centimeter weighs many, many tons. Why? Because the matter collapsed and became something else. The laws themselves have changed. In a way, this is what the Rebbe wanted to do. He wanted to change the very nature of human matter, human behavior, the very way the human being operates. With everyone he encountered, he tried to change their nature into something completely different. They weren't people anymore. They were something else. So you're worried you don't have enough time in the day, so do more things, and then eventually you'll figure it out. So that is the Rebbe's explanation of the first Mishnah. Now let's look at Mishnah number 3. Susie, are you close to the phone? Would you like to read us Mishnah number 3 on page 9?
Okay.
Hold on.
Be careful.
No,
Can you hear me?
No, he can't hear you.
Yeah.
Reading it
Yeah, I could hear.
Yeah, be careful with governmental authorities for they befriend a person only for their own needs. They appear to be friends when it is beneficial to them, but they do not stand by a person at the time of his distress. Be careful with the governmental authorities. You who are involved in communal affairs, although you need to interact with the authorities in order to do your job, be careful. How true.
Yes.
Yeah.
How
Exactly. On the
true.
one hand, we do not need much more explanation than this. This is a very,
Well,
yeah, very practical advice, very, very good practical advice. And unfortunately, Jewish history is replete with such stories. Um, Joseph, right? He led Egypt and saved them from famine, and then look what they did. As soon as Joseph died, they enslaved the Jewish people. Um, everyone knows what happened in Spain in 1492.
uh,
Sorry.
Yep,
yep.
I certainly
Yeah.
do.
Now, what you might not have known is that there was a famous Jewish scholar whose name was Don Yitzchak Abarbanel. He wrote a beautiful explanation on the Torah, on the five books of Moses. It's really, really stunning. It's incredible. But in addition to being a great scholar, he was also a financial advisor. What kind of a job for a Jewish person? Who would have thought, right? Don Yitzchak Abarbanel was not only a great financial advisor, he was actually financial advisor to the Queen. He was Spain's finance minister. And he was very wealthy and provided loans to the treasury in the millions, to the extent that he became the personal representative of the Queen of Spain in all her financial affairs. Well, then, one day we all know that the royal decree was given to expel all the Jews from Spain, and shortly before the Tisha B'Av in the year 1492. Don Yitzchak Abarbanel tried everything he could to change the decree. He met with the king 3 times, and he offered to provide a considerable sum of money to annul the decree. However, the king, under the influence of his wife, who was the queen, whom Abarbanel was the financial advisor for, was not willing to give in. And so in the hundreds of thousands, the Jews were forced to leave Spain and wander around. These examples remind us time and again that while we do need to make efforts and build relationships and be involved with the government, you cannot rely on the government ever for anything.
I hope he was able to leave with his
your
money.
side. Sorry?
Hope he was able to leave with his money.
I hope so too. So it's very nice, but the Rebbe is going to take this mission a step deeper and teach us a beautiful lesson from here. Page number 9 on the bottom, the mind and the heart of the two rulers. This Mishnah addresses the communal activists who must maintain a relationship with the political authorities and cautions them to go about this relationship carefully. This raises us 2 questions. Number 1, ethics of the fathers is devoted to teaching us pious conduct, going beyond the letter of the law. Caution in relations with the government does not seem related to Torah and mitzvahs at all. So how is it relevant to this tractate, which is ethics of our fathers? This does not seem to be a teaching of morals and ethics and how to live beyond the letter of the law. Question number 2, only a small minority of the public are involved in communal activism that requires relationships with the authorities. Can this entire Mishnah be teaching just a small group of people? So the Rebbe says we can explain this on a level of allegory. Authority here means the authority that is ruling over you. The sages describe the body as a small city, that a poor wise man, the positive inclination, is trying to rule and save the body from the negative inclination. The tools people use to exert control over their actions are their mind and feeling. As the Zohar states, there are 3 rulers, the mind, the heart, and the liver. We can now understand how the Mishnah's instruction, be careful with the authorities, is relevant to everyone. Our personal controlling authorities, our intellect and feelings, can sometimes lead us to undesirable places. As the sages say, the eye sees, the heart desires, and the body commits the transgression. Since the body enjoys the transgression, these temptations can seem friendly to it. We therefore need to exercise great caution to prevent the negative inclination from enticing us to follow it. As the sages caution, the skill of the negative inclination is telling you today to do this small thing and tomorrow to do that further thing until you end up in places you never would have imagined. Considering this, we may think that we should have nothing to do with the authorities. We should completely ignore all the intellectual and emotional elements of worldly matters and engage solely in Torah and mitzvahs. Page 11. Indeed, such an approach is proper according to the letter of the law. But the standard of piety calls for us to serve God with both of our inclinations, the positive and the negative. We should not ignore our negative inclination. We should engage with it and transform it into a positive force. However, this approach requires extreme caution. Be careful with the authorities. Yes, involve yourself in worldly matters, but make sure that they do not trap and snare you and pull you down. So, to summarize in the key points, what did Rabbi Yehuda mean by choosing a path if the Torah already instructs us on the correct path? And the answer is the choice is between two legitimate paths, focusing on your personal spiritual development or the communal well-being. The Tanaic sages themselves chose between these paths. Rabbi Yehuda's advice is to choose both, to integrate one's personal development with influencing their environment as well. How can one do both? Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz tells of how he felt too overwhelmed with work and asked the Rebbe which projects to abandon. The Rebbe advised him to continue with all of them and even add more. Rabbi Steinsaltz explains that the Rebbe was trying to reveal inner strength hidden deep within and give him the ability to accomplish more. What is behind the warning not to place too much trust in the government? And the answer is this refers to one's own governing faculties, the heart and the mind. The Mishnah teaches us how to engage with them correctly. Takeaway: giving to others and influencing your surroundings is part and parcel of our divine service, even at the temporary cost of our personal development. Serving God is done via our emotional and intellectual faculties, but we must be careful not to allow them to lead us astray. Thank you guys for joining. Wishing you a wonderful, happy, and healthy week. Shabbat Shalom, and God willing, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. And blessings to your family. Yeah.
Thank you. Take good care. All the best.
Thank you for today. Bye-bye.